Okay, so I finally sat down and I'm gonna kind of give my thoughts about this thing. I think after I think it's been like, what, 3 or 4 weeks now? Been about a solid month. I would say with playing with this custom controller that I had made from MakeStick, or from ISTMALL. A couple days ago, I had some friends over, and one of my buddies wanted to check out my fight sticks, and he came downstairs, and this was on my table, and he like he doesn't play fighting games by any means. I don't think he's ever really touched an arcade stick. I don't know necessarily, but he came and just kind of like tested this thing, this lever, this Korean lever, and I was like, oh hey, check out my old one. And the second he touched this, he's like, oh shit, like this is. He immediately said he would prefer to play with this. Now that's just his opinion. He's not necessarily a fighting game guy, but just from his like tactile feel of just his initial thoughts of the Korean lever was that it was just much better. Now after a solid month, I would say a little bit less of playing with this thing, I know in the previous video where I was doing like the unboxing or whatever, I was like, oh, hey, maybe I'll go back to this. Maybe I'll play with the Nobi bullet lever a little more just to have like some variety. And I'm like, not gonna lie, I really don't want to. I feel like going from this back to this would be literal torture. It just would not feel right. It wouldn't feel right at all. Now, initially, when I first plugged this thing in, and I read some YouTube comments that you guys left on the unboxing video, and I'll answer some of those, one specifically about the button layout. I was very confused. Now, figured out what this is. This is left stick, right stick. This is directional pad. That took me a minute. I was like, why doesn't it work? It was because I had it like on the right stick or something, and it wasn't working. I was like, oh shit. Yeah. And second of all, as somebody was asking previously, on this box here, it's wired so that it's, X, A, Y, B, R, B, R, T, L, B, L1. And so I'm used to, when I'm like cycling through the main menu of the game, to press the right bumper here. Now, when I came here, this is not the right bumper. This is Y. So this came set up in a way where all of these buttons are shifted one column to the right. So the XA, or the X and the A, are here, the Y and the B are here, the RB, RT are here, and the LB, LT are here. So for example, if I want to shift the menu, I would have to press this button, as that's RB. And then backwards would be LB here. Now I was very confused at first, but luckily in tech, you can just go into the menu, and I made it so that this is, these are like these. So my inputs are a little fucked up, I guess you could say. But I didn't really find that as big of a problem. If you're somebody that's a super stickler, and you want it to be the same as this, that is not a problem. You can simply pop this bitch open and literally just rewire it. You could just, whatever this shit is over here, pop in where this, wire goes to wherever this, or this wire wherever this one's plugged into. You could literally just do that. It's not that big of a deal. You can do that pretty easily if you have just the most basic understanding of how to plug shit in and out. So, not really a big deal for me. I will say I'm not very worried about the white as well. This has stayed very clean. Just have to like brush it off every once in a while. A lot of people did talk about, or not a lot of people, but somebody did mention creaking of the plastic, like, you know, quote unquote cheap build quality. I guess I personally don't have an issue with, I mean, I guess maybe, I guess a little bit. I can't really, you know, I can't really complain about the build quality of this thing. But to each their own. Maybe they got shipped a shitty quality one. God knows. All I can say is that this one does feel like a solid fucking brick. But this one seems to be a little bit more assembled with purpose. But that's just kind of your own opinion. Now, honestly, looking back at it, I could see how if perhaps, you know, this stuff here was input here, this might look a little bit more appealing. It might look a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more like minimalistic, I guess you could say. And I agree. It would look really cool. It would look really good. But I will say this hand size here is very nice. I do like it a lot. And I don't really necessarily think I could go back to where there isn't like a curve here or something when I play. Also, one thing I forgot to mention in the previous unboxing video is that I got the button layout. This is like a specific layout that was used for Tekken arcades, the arcade boxes. Now, I don't know if you can necessarily notice, but it swoops kind of up and then down like that. Now, you can get this with the regular layout that's popular here in the States. And as a comparison, look at how this is kind of curving, kind of like how your fingers, they're like natural length, I guess you could say, versus this one where it's more like kind of straight, like that. If you can kind of see the difference here. I'll give you a quick look back to see what I mean. Like your finger length kind of naturally, and then here, I guess the difference, you see how my pinky doesn't like, it goes all the way down to this button. You know, it doesn't really match up. This one, it does for the most part. So that's just something I think I forgot to mention last time. Now, I will say, at the start, when I plugged this in for the first time, got all my buttons and shit, right? This thing was fucking with me hard. I could not, for the life of me, get my inputs right. Not only was the force I had to kind of push it with, it felt different. Like I mentioned last time, that this is very like one force fits all, I guess you could say, right? This one, it is not. You definitely have to apply yourself a little bit more to get that full activation distance. Not that it's a big deal, but you know, your fingers, they might get tired after a long playing session or something. But I was dropping a lot of those corner combos. And somebody in the previous in the video's comments said that the activation distance for, I guess, the 4 cardinal distances where it's like left, right, up, down is shorter than obviously the corner activation, versus this thing is basically an equal, for the most part, distance all the way around. So there was a case where I got used to the distance needed to input a simple thing like back, forward, up, down, that I would instinctively try to do it in the corners, but it doesn't register. I guess you can kind of hear it here, where you can kind of see how I'm moving it back and it's activating that bottom trigger. And now if I take that kind of same force, same distance into the corner, it does not activate. Neither right nor down. I have to go all the way, full force. A lot more than that versus all the way like that. In the beginning, that will mess with you 100%, because it did for me. It really, really messed with me, and I was getting very frustrated until I like had to teach myself to go like, no, stop being a bitch, slam it. If you're gonna play, you know, play with purpose, you know? So once I learned how to do that, I was like, oh my God, of course. So that's that. Now, I want to also say that the Korean backdash, right? Let's say, for example, obviously I can't do it, but the movement feels very good. But it feels very good in a very, very specific way. Now, I'm going to go into practice mode to kind of explain what I mean by it feels good in a certain way. And I'll try my hardest. Well, I mean, I guess it won't necessarily be the most perfect example because I play Kuma, so my backdashes and my strafing aren't exactly the highest tier. But I guess I'll try to explain what I mean where the rubber grommet may impact how your movement goes in certain directions versus other directions. Now, obviously, Kuma doesn't really have good movement, but for example, dashing forward, naturally, you kind of obviously with like good timing, it's pretty easy, pretty good, whatever, stuff like that. That movement feels good. Going down, strafing to the right, strafing counterclockwise feels very good. The activation distance is super, close, so you can literally just like really quickly like give it a nice tap like that, and you are just moving and grooving. Now, those two directions are very good. Dashing forward like this and dashing counterclockwise of the opponent, or down, I guess, is very good. Now, back dashing and dashing up, or I guess, clockwise around the opponent or whatever, is a little bit more difficult for me. I've had a pretty hard time because you have the benefit of using your entire hand, all four of your fingers, I guess, to push it forward and to push it down. Now, when you want to go up or away, you're not going to, curl your hand around and go like this. You're not going to play like that. So you're going to use like your thumb to go back like this, or to go up, or I don't know, however people would play. Usually when I'm going forward or down, I'll do all four of my fingers going down and forward. And when I'm going up or back, I'll use my thumb. Now, luckily, those activation distances are on the shorter end. Luckily, they're not, corner inputs, because that would be a little bit more difficult. But maybe I'm not showing it properly, but the rubber grommet in this is a little bit higher, I guess, like density rubber. I don't know how else to explain it, but you can choose like how stiff the rubber grommet is in it. And I got a relatively stiff one. So it's easy to get this movement down because I got, all four of my fingers doing the pushing. But if I want to backdash quickly and it's just my one thumb doing the pushing, I find that it actually gets kind of tiring, especially when you want to do like more precise movements like this. This like little movement, I guess you can kind of see my thumb muscles doing the work there. This does get kind of tiring after a longer period of time of play. Because usually when you're playing, you're not thinking about how much, so you're not doing like super minimal inputs like that. You're sitting there going like that, and that's gonna tire your hand out eventually. As compared to this, where it's literally just like, kind of like you're hitting a switch, But since this is the rubber grommet, it requires just a little bit more effort. And I do find myself kind of going, like every once in a while, just kind of like flexing, flexing my arm, getting it kind of loose again. Because, it could get tired, especially after like a long day's work or something. You're just, especially, like if you work a manual labor job or something, maybe your fingers or your hands get tired. So yeah, that's just kind of for reference if you're interested in this again. I will say I'm getting a lot better at these movements and, trying to control myself a little bit more and not, just smacking, doing that. I'm getting a lot better with like doing more mindful inputs and like assisting myself with, I guess, a little bit more wrist movement than just like relying on my finger like that. But I will say, when I first got it, rotating, sidestepping down, this, if you're like in the groove, you can go so fast. Obviously I haven't played yet today, but if you get this shit going, like if you get it perfect, you can go so quickly. Even with Kuma, I feel like the sidesteps are good. I've gotten a few where I actually sidestepped somebody and I was like, oh shit, and then I forgot to punish because I was just so amazed that I actually sidestepped somebody, and it was kind of embarrassing, but it is what it is. Now there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and that is, oh yeah, the positioning of the stick. Now I did say that the gate in this is the circle, or I guess kind of like a gently squared off circle where it's very gently rounded in the corners, but for the most part you can see how it slides out of it, like that. Now, as somebody that plays relatively aggressively, this being a relatively heavy stick, you've kind of seen how much I can, hit this with. This thing does not move. This does not move. But I'm the kind of person that sometimes swivels in my chair, and maybe sometimes I'll sit a little bit crooked like this, sideways or whatever. I've sometimes misinputted because the gate being, rounded, I'll like treat this as like my up, you know what I mean? But this in reality is like basically a corner input. Or sometimes when I started playing the game, I'll have this accidentally a little bit like kind of off axis. I'll be sitting a little crooked or something, and I'll be playing like this, and I'll be doing corner inputs, and I'll be like, why the fuck am I dropping combos? And it's because it's a little bit, so then I have to rearrange myself, and I'm like, shit, this thing's not, it's not centered because it's, up, down, but when it was slightly off, I was doing corner inputs on accident, So that's just something that I noticed. So I'm like super conscious now. Every time I finish a game or I'm in the middle of like a match or something, after I went around, I'll quickly like glance down and be like, oh shit, am I sitting straight? Because I don't want to drop my inputs, because it's a relatively precise stick. So if you don't get the inputs correctly, you will drop combos. But the activation time, there's like virtually no delay. This thing is really something else. I cannot go back to this. I cannot go back to the OBSF buttons. These just feel so like cheap and plasticky to me now, ever since I started using the OBSJs. This just feels right. I really can't explain it. This, forget about it. If I was given this again, I'm pretty sure I would uninstall the game. Not to be like harsh, but it's just a world of difference for me. After playing with this strictly for a month, I have not gone back to that. I've barely even looked at it. This layout, these OBSJ buttons, and this Alpha N stick are seriously something else. It just feels so good to play on. And I honestly, I know I mentioned, I'm like, oh, if I don't like something, I'll switch it out. No fucking shot I'm switching out anything on here. I still love the way it looks. A lot of you guys have been complimenting about how you liked the color scheme, and honestly, I was like, damn, I guess I'm not the only one that likes how kind of, cool it looks, and I'm really glad some of you guys like it too. Now, in regards to future projects, something that I wanted to try out was this ball top right here. So I guess for reference, I work in a machine shop. So I work with a lot of metal, and I manufacture metal on like lathes and mills and whatnot. I do the programming for it. I do all that shit. I've been very curious about, for example, maybe taking this ball top off and recreating it out of like 304 stainless steel, like a beautifully polished, beautifully manufactured stainless steel bat top that I can screw on and have and see what this would feel like with a significantly heavier ball top or a bat top, if you know what I mean. Because this is lightweight as all hell. This is just some kind of plastic compound or whatever that's been injection molded from something. And those for you that don't know, this stick has been like manufactured like Korean standards or something. They were like advertising that it's like 0.001 millimeter accuracy or something, you know, crazy. But then they, you know, they just went ahead and gave it like a plasticky ball top, which I know is probably the best, most comfortable, whatever. But just as like a project, I think maybe I'll make an update video maybe this weekend or something. I'll take this thing off and I will replicate it and manufacture this out of 304 stainless steel. I've done a few projects around my house where I've kind of manufactured my own stuff to, I guess, customize or better some things around the house. So I thought, hey, it would be really cool to see what a heavier metallic stainless steel bat top would not only look like, but how it would play, since it's, you know, the rubber grommet and everything, if the added weight would, you know, make it easier to, you know, get the movement down. Would it be worse? Would it be better? I don't really care necessarily about the performance. I just care about how it would look. And I'd kind of do it more as like an experiment. For reference, I made my these stands for my speakers down here in the basement. I made these myself, you know, with like threading and whatever. And this is made out of 6061 aluminum. And I was thinking, like, you know, this isn't necessarily the best. Stainless steel would look a lot better, but like this kind of manufactured feeling, maybe I'll make it out of aluminum too, fuck it. But I was thinking about that, and then I can get it powder coated or something, and then it would make for a really cool looking stick. You know, maybe I can even make it out of stainless and get it powder coated to be this kind of green, except more of like a matte finish. So I guess I'll give that a shot, and I'll make an update video of how that both plays and feels and looks for the most part sometime in the future. Maybe I'll work on it this weekend, God knows. So I guess maybe stay in touch for that. But overall, after spending, you know, quite a bit of money on this thing, initially being kind of skeptical about how much I would like it, how much I would continue playing Tekken, this has made me want to play more Tekken, because it's just so fun. It's like satisfying to get it all right. And I would really recommend it to anybody that has disposable income. If you are somebody that prefers an all metallic body, if you're somebody that wants to go a little bit more on the budget, if you find a store here in the States that will sell you a Korean lever that isn't on, you know, back order for the next 6 months, then I would recommend this. If you want something easier, just fucking buy this thing. This thing is the best. This is the all-purpose thing. Take everything I have here, shove it onto this thing. It's going to be almost exactly the same. Maybe some, you know, just visual differences here and there. But this is, for me, perfect. And final notice, if you're a Tekken player and you still use a Japanese-style springed, any gate that's not circular, if you're using an octagonal gate, a square gate, whatever, please, for the love of God, at least one time, if you find yourself having an extra $50 or something, or $40 or $30, I think even the cheapest Korean levers are like $25 or $20. When they are in stock, pick one up and try it. You will be very surprised. So yeah, I will say one thing though, just be careful if you're using a stick that came with a Japanese lever. This hole here, under here, is a different size than the ones that the Korean lever ones have down here. So just be careful that it's compatible, just in case. I don't want to mislead you. But yeah, those are kind of my final thoughts. Worth every penny. And yeah, I mean, thanks for watching.